It was the most secure prison in Northern Ireland, a fortress of steel, concrete, and watchtowers. Guards patrolled with automatic rifles. Floodlights cut through the darkness. Escape? Impossible. Or so they thought. Because on September 25, 1983, 38 prisoners pulled off the biggest prison escape in British history. Out of a high-security prison, through multiple gates, past armed guards, and into the open countryside. How did they do it? This is the story of the Maze prison escape. The Maze prison, also known as Long Kesh, wasn't just a prison. It was one of the most secure facilities in all of Europe, built specifically to hold members of the Provisional Irish Republican Army, IRA. Each prisoner was considered extremely dangerous, either convicted of deadly attacks or awaiting trial for terrorism-related charges. The prison itself was built like a military base. The entire compound was surrounded by concrete walls, barbed wire fences, and guard towers equipped with searchlights and machine guns. Inside, the prisoners were housed in H-blocks, a series of cell blocks shaped like the letter H, each with heavy security doors, high walls, and limited access points. The British authorities believed no one could ever escape, but the men inside were not ordinary prisoners. They were highly trained, disciplined, and completely dedicated to their cause, and they had been planning something for months. It started with a single key piece of intelligence. Prisoners noticed that every day, around 2:30 p.m., a food truck entered the compound, delivering meals to the guards and staff. The truck had direct access to the inner gates, a rare opportunity to reach the outside world. But stealing the truck was only one part of the plan. They needed weapons to control the guards. A strategy to get past each security checkpoint. An exit plan once they got outside. The first challenge, arming themselves. There was no way to smuggle in real firearms, so instead, they built fake wooden guns, carved from stolen mop handles and painted black with boot polish. They also smuggled in knives and other sharp objects hidden inside food deliveries and prison supplies. The next step? Securing the keys. A group of prisoners began memorizing guard routines, watching who carried the master keys and when. They knew if they could get hold of even one key, they could start unlocking doors. By September 1983, everything was ready. The prisoners chose their moment carefully, a Sunday, when security was slightly more relaxed. Then, at exactly 2:30 p.m., the plan began. The first move was taking control of H Block 7, their section of the prison. The prisoners overpowered a guard, took his keys, and silently locked him inside a cell. One by one, they captured each officer in the block, tying them up and warning them to stay quiet, or else. Within minutes, they had full control over the cell block. Now they had to get to the food truck. Moving in groups, some prisoners dressed in stolen guard uniforms, blending in perfectly with the real officers. They marched down the corridors, passing right under the noses of unsuspecting staff. At the inner checkpoint, a disguised prisoner flashed a stolen ID card, and the guard on duty, thinking he was dealing with an actual officer, opened the gate without question. They had just bypassed one of the hardest barriers in the prison. Now it was time for the most dangerous part: getting out. The prisoners rushed the food truck, overpowering the driver and climbing inside. A handful of men armed with makeshift weapons sat in the back, ready to fight if anything went wrong. The truck rumbled toward the main gate, approaching the final security checkpoint. This was it. If the guards became suspicious, the entire plan would collapse. The truck slowed down as the guard approached the driver's window. Everything came down to this moment. And then, a prisoner jumped out and held a knife to the driver's throat. "Open the gate, now!" The guard hesitated. Then, in a panic, he pressed the release button. The heavy iron gates swung open. The truck lurched forward, and just like that, they were out. The moment the truck passed through the final gate, the prisoners scattered in every direction. Some hijacked cars, forcing drivers at gunpoint to take them into the countryside. Others ran into the nearby fields, disappearing into the thick northern Irish landscape. The guards sounded the alarm, but by the time the British Army arrived, 38 men were already gone. It was the largest prison break in British history. But the real chaos was just beginning. When news of the escape broke, the British government was in shock. How had 38 men escaped from the most secure prison in Northern Ireland? How had guards been overpowered so easily? The response was immediate and brutal. Checkpoints were set up across Northern Ireland. Roadblocks were placed on every major highway. The British Army searched every home, farm, and building within a 50-mile radius. For the next several weeks, the biggest manhunt in Irish history took place. Slowly, the authorities began recapturing some of the escapees. Within 2 days, 19 were caught. Over the next few weeks, 10 more were found. But 9 completely vanished. Those 9 men made it to safe houses, escaping across the border into the Republic of Ireland, or even leaving the country altogether. Some were never seen again. The escape had massive political consequences. The British government faced outrage, accused of incompetence and failing to control the prison. Security in the Maze prison was completely overhauled. New cameras, stricter guard training, and reinforced security measures. But for the IRA, the escape was a huge victory. It proved that no prison was inescapable. Many of the escapees returned to the fight, becoming high-ranking members of the IRA's leadership. And to this day, the Maze prison escape remains one of the most daring and successful prison breaks in history. Because no matter how high the walls, no cage can hold a determined man forever.